Can you introduce yourself and tell me your role within the company?
Yes, my name is Kimberly Merga, and I'm the Executive Director of the Criminalistics Bureau with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
Excellent. And so, what were the biggest challenges that your agency faced in managing evidence before using tracker products?
I think the software that we're using beforehand, we had actually brought online the 20 years prior and around the year 2000. It was just time for an upgrade. The manufacturers were no longer in the business of maintaining the software, upgrading it, providing solutions, and so it was just time to upgrade to something more modern. And certainly the fact that Tracker can also be located in the cloud, it was definitely a huge help.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. And so, what prompted your organization to look for an evidence management solution just because the other one was sort of at the end of life?
Yeah, it's time to upgrade. And so there's a lot of features that were not available with the older software just simply because it was built in 2000. It's certainly done a lot of upgrades, but like of the statute of limitations associated with certain crime types, able to allow our officers do their own data entry, which we're still working on rolling that out. Crime scene folks to gain access to the software, which is something new. So there's just a lot of features, modern software that we were looking for that would really help us manage. We have over 1 million items of evidence, so it's a lot of evidence. And so we were looking something that was very robust and could really be fluid in some of the different things that we needed to accomplish.
Oh, okay. Very good. And so, what stood out to you about tracker products when you first considered it?
I think the fact that it was already in the cloud. I think that there was a lot of customers that were already using it. And we were able to actually interview some of those different customers and kind of their experience with Ben's team and stuff like that. I think that was extremely helpful in helping us narrow down the selection process. We also had a pretty lengthy request for proposal with a lot of different requirements,
Hmm.
and Tracker seemed to meet many of those requirements.
How did you find Tracker? Like, how you introduced to them?
So we went to request for proposal, which is a competitive bid process that our agency uses for procurements that are over a certain amount, a certain dollar value. And so we put those out to any entity that could this type of software. And then we put them through a rigorous interview process. And so there's a series of questions and answers and criteria that we have to be evaluated. And then we invited each vendor to come out and do a presentation. This was actually during COVID. I think it was around 2020, if you will. And so I think we had 4 final vendors that came out and actually presented all the different features of their software. And at the end of the day, our agency, along with many different aspects in our entity, our agency to include in our bureau, which is the forensic lab, crime scene, and excuse me, let me start that over. I apologize.
Okay.
We have a pretty robust proposal process where we had each of the vendors come out and do a presentation as well as submit associated with a lot of different types of features that we're looking for. And so all evaluated the software from our agency, from our IT folks to our bureau, forensic lab, crime scene, evidence vault, and they ended up being the vendor who we selected to move forward with the software.
Oh, okay. Sounds like a pretty rigorous process you have there. And so, what was your experience with the onboarding and implementation process?
It was actually good. It was a long process. I'm not going to fib. It did take several years to work with Tracker closely to help develop the software to really provide a customized solution for our agency. Unlike many other agencies, we are a pretty large agency with over 6,000 employees and 1 million items of evidence. And so it was a lot of customization. Worked very closely with them for a few years. And then we did end up launching in June of 2024. Still doing customized solutions as well, but you have our evidence vault using the software. We have our crime scene folks using the software, which is new. And then we're hoping that in the next few months, we can roll out to all of our officers as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a huge rollout and
It
a lot
is
of moving parts, I'm sure.
like officers. So it's a lot of officers.
Is that going to be new? I mean, well, no, the part's new, but like prior with your old system, did the officers have access to it and they were entering information themselves?
So our officers, our evidence vault team was exclusively entering in all the data themselves. And so our officers would impound packages of evidence And then our officers would just leave the evidence behind, and then the evidence vault folks would pick up that evidence and then do the data entry into the software itself. And so that was agency-wide, our crime scene folks as well. And so we had evidence techs doing that data entry. We now have crime scene, which is brand new. They've never had to do it before. And then rolling out to officers, this will be the first time that they actually do their own data entry as well.
Yeah, and a lot of departments, agencies tell us the same thing. And the officers have told us that they appreciate when they get reminders that they put the evidence in there, so they keeps them accountable. Now, what quickly did your team adapt to using tracker products?
So we rolled out in June. I would say that they're still adapting. It's difficult, especially when we've been using one particular software for over 20 years. And especially when you have, folks like our crime scene analysts who have never had to enter their own evidence. And so they're still adapting. The process does take a while, but the software is very intuitive. There's a lot of features associated with management. You can track evidence. You can track how many items you have. You can track how many dispositions you have. And so there's a lot of features that are very good. But it's challenging. And so we're still kind of working through those hurdles. I would say our crime scene folks are pretty well adapted at this point in time. And we're really taking our time with the rollout of our officers because there are so many and it is such a massive rollout. We want to make sure that we get it done right. So we have our training set up for them. We have our protocols in place associated with the department manual. And so we did roll out recently one aspect 2 weeks ago to our detectives and investigative specialists to help us disposition evidence or evaluate evidence and determine if we have to keep it based upon statute of limitations, based upon conviction history, based upon any charges that have been filed. So one of the things that are huge with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department is if the case is already dismissed, if the time has already been served, we no longer have to keep the evidence for certain crime types. And so that evidence and actually disposing of that helps us ensure that our evidence vault is not maintaining evidence that no longer has to be kept.
Wow, that's huge. Yeah. You're gonna have evidence go in at such a fast pace. You want to make sure that you're getting it out as quickly as possible.
Correct.
How would you describe the customer support and training provided by Tracker products?
We did do a series of webinars with them over the course of launching. And they still routinely use their portal for submitting tickets. We have one member of Tracker that's very dedicated to us. She all hours of the day, on the weekends and stuff like that as well. So we're very pleased. Like we can find nuances and things that will help improve and so they're very amenable to helping us adjust things, the software, make small tweaks and stuff like that.
That's great to hear. Now, what has been your experience with the ease of use and navigation of Tracker products?
So I think the interface is really good. I mean, a lot of self-intuitive features associated with the software itself. There are specific requirements to do the data entry to make sure that it's all the marks. And so that is a little bit of a learning curve, but I think once people get the hang of it, it's not, as scary as some people think in doing the transition. I know that we continue to teach different on the department as we continue to roll out the software, financial accounting. We rolled that out to our accounting folks so they can evaluate, maybe booked evidence and then end up going in what's called our general fund. And so we're slowly continuing to roll out all of the features to everybody involved that's associated with looking at evidence, maintaining evidence, evaluating different features that, as chain of custody and different types of crime, stuff like that. So.
Okay. Moving parts. And so how has Tracker products improved the efficiency in your evidence management process?
So we do routinely evaluate reports of the evidence that we have. And right now our evidence vault is entertaining a huge move. We're going to be moving after 30 years of being in the same location. We have over 700,000 items in that location. And so right now we're focusing on purging large item evidence, such as food carts, furniture, records they no longer have to keep. And so we've been able to kind of list of particular meeting criteria of large items of evidence that we can go ahead and purge. And so it's been really good for us to be able to query that type of data and disperse that throughout the department to garner all of the different area commands that are responsible for overseeing the evidence to see what we can get rid of so that we're not moving evidence that we don't need to keep.
This question is just for me personally, it's not for this process, but I'm curious, like, what do you do with the evidence that you're purging it? Do you burn it or destroy it, or how does that work?
All of the above. So it depends,
Oh,
right? So if it's drugs, we burn them. Okay. And so you have to kind of make sure that they can no longer be used. If it's gun and gun parts, so like for instance, in April of this year, we're getting ready to dispose of over 10,000 guns and guns parts.
wow.
And we have thousands of items of gun parts every single year. And so we take them to a car crushing facility and they
Mhm.
just crush them so they can't be used. If it's clothing and it's in decent wear, we can donate that to Goodwill. Otherwise, we purge it. Metal, we just recycle the metal. So if it's like vapes and things that can go boom, we have special vendors that
Yeah.
will come and take those things away. So it just really depends. I mean, I don't know if you're a shopper, but if you go into Ross, you're kind of
Mhm.
on for a good deal. Well, it's like
Yep.
deconstructing on the other end where you have to open everything up and just have piles of sorting. And,
Wow.
those in the metal pile and the drugs go in the drug pile. And it's a constant process. And overall, if you look at our numbers, I think at one point, I think total in the history of our existence, we have over 4 million items of evidence, but we've gotten rid of over 3 million. And so that's why we have about 1 million left. And some of the evidence we have to keep forever, like some of the crime types like homicides and sexual assaults, we don't get rid of that evidence. But certainly if there are even felonies where the time has been served and we no longer have to keep the items, we do purge them.
Wow, that is a huge process. It sounds like you're going to need a whole staff of doing nothing but sorting evidence on a regular basis.
We do. We have a whole staff of that. Exactly.
Wow, that's a big operation. Now, how does Tracker Products compare to other evidence management systems you've used in the past?
So I've only ever used one other evidence management system in the past, and that software served us what it was just time for an upgrade. Again, the software was antiquated. The folks that were in charge of it were really interested in upkeeping it. There was a lot more competitive software on the market, so it was just time to something a little bit more modern.
That makes sense. Absolutely. Now, can you share how the software has helped maintain chain of custody integrity?
Yes, well, everything's electronic,
Mhm.
so everything is maintained within the database itself. We no longer have to have digital, we no longer have to have handwritten signatures on the actual chain of custody, which eliminates the paperwork associated with that. Obviously, the packages and the evidence still has to have a label on it with something, in the electronic as well. We can print labels directly from the software and put it onto the evidence. And so we really haven't had any issues with maintaining chain of custody. And Evidence Vault has tracked a lot of different nodes and areas where evidence is stored at their vault. And
Mhm.
so it allows us to not only know who's had their hands on it and when and where, but also evidence being stored currently if we have to send it to the forensic laboratory or have it picked up by testifying in court and whatnot.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's great. And what features of Trafficker products do you and your team use the most?
I would say location of evidence. And so we serve all of Las Vegas. And so that's several hundred miles. And
Mhm.
so knowing where the evidence is, right? And so it's so helpful to know what evidence is dropped and where it's at, because a lot of times that evidence may be needed to go someplace like the evidence vault or the forensic lab, or it's being delivered from crime scene. So we use those features for our disposition process where we're looking at what evidence can be destroyed. We can sort evidence based on what area command actually impounded the evidence and then what type of evidence it is. And so we can generate lists associated with evidence that might belong to this area command or this area. Their investigative specialists can evaluate the status of the cases related to that and either put a time hold or authorize it for destruction. So there's a lot of different features within the software. And then as a management person myself, I
Mhm.
utilize the statistical software. How many sexual you have, how many total pieces of we have as far as narcotics go, how many drug types do we have, how many boxes of marijuana do we have. And so it really helps from the managerial aspect to know what is in your inventory and what is available for evaluation.
It's amazing how often we come across police departments where we'll ask, like, how many pieces of evidence do you have right now? And many agencies will have absolutely no idea, and they say it'll take a while for me to find out. It sounds like you have the ability to go in and find a report like instantaneously on a pretty granular level.
One of the great features of Tracker is there's something called widgets. So
Mhm,
widgets is like a dashboard page that you can create. And
mhm,
I just had, not me, I'm not when it comes to software, but I had
sure.
one of my fantastic folks at the Evidence Vault create me a widget where I can look at any moment and see how many items of evidence we have at the vault. I can look and see how many items of evidence are at the forensic lab. I can look and see the various items of evidence are in the system and where they are located. And so it's, I mean, we're trying the next few months and we're looking at really getting rid of some of those big items. And so allowing me to see how many items of evidence we have and how many items of evidence are dispositioned on a weekly basis is super helpful, because we're trying to make sure that we hit that mark as far as allowing us to move and purge evidence.
That's great. I imagine there's probably goals and milestones in place that you're
There,
having. Yeah.
There is. We don't want to move anything that we don't need to retain. So for instance, our found, we have tons of lost and found evidence as well, or things that are being held on a temporary basis, maybe while somebody's being booked into jail,
Mhm,
such as bicycles. And so right now we have several hundred bicycles. And so we're looking at purging at least 50% of those bicycles that they're just, when somebody goes to jail and we're temporarily holding their evidence, they have a limited period of time to pick up that evidence. And so the software allows us to help track that information as well.
do you destroy the bicycles as well?
It depends. So a lot of bicycles are just not in good shape,
Oh,
but
yeah.
what is in but good shape, we will donate it. And so if anything
Hmm.
that we have is able to be reutilized, whether it's clothing or bicycles or whatnot, jackets, we will donate those. Cell phones for victims of violent crimes, domestic abuse victims, we
Hmm.
will donate those items, but only if they're in good shape. If you wouldn't want it, then
Right.
somebody else may not want it. And so we just have to be very cognizant of what we're donating.
I mean, I think it's nice taking the time and you're not giving people garbage. You're just,
It's
you
a
bring,
lot of work.
it is, and a lot of people. How has the automation of disposition, we just talk about that? No, how has the automation of disposition benefited your organization?
So I think one of the best features that we have is being alerted as to the limitations per crime type, right? So before we would have to go in and query the software itself, we'd have to know, oh, that's a burglary, it has a 4-year statute of limitations. Let's take a look at it. Well, now the software, I haven't seen it myself, but
Huh?
it's my understanding of the sus as to when crime types associated with specific items of evidence have reached their statute of limitations, then we can evaluate that evidence. And so lists of that evidence impounded by whatever area commander, whatever specialized investigative unit will go out so that their investigative folks can evaluate, do we still need to keep this evidence, or can we get rid of it? Certainly misdemeanors are a lot of the evidence that we have, and they have such a short statute of limitations. That's really what we focus on a lot, because we can get rid of a lot of evidence by looking at that type of evidence.
Yeah, that makes sense. The sooner you get it out, the better. Has Tracker Products helped you reduce storage space or improve the organization? And if so, how?
It hasn't helped us reduce space yet because we're coming up on a year, but I can tell you we're coming up on that 1-year mark from where we adopted the software. And so I do anticipate over the next few months, we will be reducing how much evidence we have, which will then save us storage space.
Excellent. And can you quantify any time or cost savings that your agency has experienced as a result of using Tracker Products?
I don't know any costs yet. There might be costs in the future. As far as time goes, it's too early. Like I said, we just rolled out a few weeks ago to our officers and some of our investigative units for dispositioning evidence. And I'm going to assume that the time to hand fill out a chain of custody outside of the envelope may equate to typing in the computer. I know young folks loved, and so some of them may prefer to type all their information on the computer and then have it once. I can tell you that we're hoping to interface Tracker with some of our main systems that we have at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to include P1. I know there's some integration going on right now with some other clients. And so if we're able to benefit that, I can see that that would actually help us in the future save time and become more efficient, to eliminate redundancy and how often we're adding things into a database.
You said you're hoping that P1?
P1 is Premier One. It's a law enforcement software, if you will. That is the main software that our agency uses to enter crime information. So information about what type of evidence was collected, information about guns, things like that. I do know that another client of Tracker is
Uh-huh.
currently, Ben Townsend is working to integrate P1 with that client. And
Okay.
that should be completed in the next few months. And we're hoping to go visualize that and see how that integration works. And then perhaps bring that back into our own agency. I have met with our IT about that integration, and we're hoping that it's something that we can utilize. And so then instead of our officers having to type gun information into both, Tracker and P1, that just kind of talk to each other or pull data. And so it could help populate in the systems. And so you don't have to have folks retype the information twice or three times.
That's fantastic to know. You just educated me on something. And so I will make sure that when I go back to my team at Tracker, that is definitely a high priority. Now, again, to educate me on this, the Premier One, is that something that is pretty readily used in all departments across the country?
I don't think it's used by all departments in the country, but it's a Motorola. It's a suite, right? So Motorola has like a supermarket of software available.
Yeah.
And so they can, something that our agency, I would say in the last 5 years, 10 years. So it's huge. I mean, we use a system called and everything that's like a repository of all records for us. I don't think there's any integration with OnBase, but P1 certainly has a lot of details related to, just different aspects that we're looking at.
That is great information. Now, you mentioned that some of your, especially the younger people, are interested in technology. Has the mobile app functionality made a difference in field operations or evidence intake?
I don't know that we're mobile app yet. I know our Evidence Vault folks have phones available. They may be using the app, but I'm just not with that yet at this point in time. So I do apologize.
That's okay, but you also said that your officers are not readily using it now. So it's
There,
possible that once the officers start
yes.
using it, that might be a more solution.
Yes, all of our are equipped with phones,
Mhm.
department phones. And so it is already have that software in all the phones so that when they are doing data entry of evidence that they're impounding, they can do that right from their phones.
That's perfect. It'll be a great use of that tool. Now, can you share an example of a situation where Tracker Products has helped solve a problem for your team?
I can't think of one now.
That's okay. That's no problem.
I mean,
Now,
I can tell you up an office for our jurisdiction folks. And so in addition to all the work that's done by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, we do serve about 20% for the forensic lab. We offer forensic services for outside jurisdictions like other law enforcement agencies. Tracker has a capability to set up for different functions. And so one of the offices that we set up was for outside jurisdictions. And so they can actually enter data, their evidence into that office, and then it transitions into our office. And one of the customers that Tracker is currently working with is actually a customer that we work with as well to process some of their forensic casework. And so that will be seamless when that's online later this year to have their evidence come over directly into our system. So that is one that will cut down on time and be more efficient, just to have them enter data into their tracker and just come on over into our tracker, if that makes sense.
it does. It makes perfect sense. And you said that there's a system that you're using to input forensic casework. Is that another third-party system?
No. So that's just separate. So the forensic lab, what's called a laboratory information management system. But right now, when outside jurisdictions drop off evidence to us, our evidence technicians have to enter that. But for this one client who's also getting Tracker online right now, locally, once they're up and running, which should be in the next few months, they will be able to data enter their evidence into their tracker. And then when they bring it to us to do testing on, not all of it, but just some of it, they can just do a click of a button and the evidence will just populate into our system. And so some other law enforcement agencies don't have forensic capabilities. And so we actually will do some of the testing for them.
That ability to auto-populate the information into your system, is that something that requires another integration, or is that something that's going to be seamless?
No, it's tracker to tracker. And
Tracker to
so
tracker. Okay, great.
it's tracker to tracker. So it should be pretty seamless and just accepting the evidence. I don't know how it's done. Forgive me. I'm
No,
not
that's okay.
computer savvy. But it should be it should go from agency office into our office, if you will.
Yep.
And so that is a huge leap in technology and efficiency. And so we're really looking forward to that, actually. And then if other law enforcement agencies get Tracker as well, then that will just streamline that whole process.
That is a very good point. And the sharing between agencies is online. Excuse me, is online right now. So if you want me to put in touch with somebody to make sure that you have that functionality, I'm happy to do that.
I appreciate. We work with this agency all the time. I've already reached out to the lab director and I've said, hey, when you guys get online and you guys get integrated with P1, let me know because we want to come down and check it out. And so we also have a great working relationship with them as well.
Wonderful. Now, how has the reporting functionality improved your ability to provide documentation for audits for legal proceedings?
So I haven't encountered that yet online for about 9 months now, and don't know that we've had that come up yet. But I am assuming that it will. I mean, I can tell you that we report, and so a lot of times we will have to generate chain of custody information associated with testifying in court related to where the evidence has been. But don't know yet that we've had any major cases involving the chain of custody at point in time.
No, that makes sense. You're new to the system. So what have you received from officers or evidence custodians or legal teams about Tracker products?
Well, the transition is always difficult. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, learning anything new, difficult, but time has moved on. I will tell you, I know when we launched Tracker last year, we were focusing on the and taking the old online, which was a huge transition for over 1 million items of evidence. So we got behind, our evidence technicians got behind in data entry, but I know within a few months they were able to get completely caught up. And that's just from becoming familiar with software and everything that has to do with it. I mean, it is a lot of work training for other entities on the department, but it's something that we're still moving forward with in addition to moving to a new location. So it's like we just have a brand new evidence management system, which and then we also are looking to having brand new facilities in coming up very soon. So it's like a brand new evidence vault.
Well, with all this newness, like you said, creating the training, creating the policies and procedures in place, that's the legwork that has to happen front. But hopefully, once that's all done, you start to see some of those efficiencies.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, if you could describe Tracker in one word, what would it be and why?
I would say flexible.
Okay.
We have a lot of disposition process that maybe many other agencies do not have, and they've been very receptive and flexible with helping us develop that. And they continue to be flexible in helping us make tweaks in order to help really get us some manager tools that we're interested, or some numbers, or some queries, or some widgets, or different improvements in different processes that we have. And so I think that they've been flexible and patient with us as well. But that's two ways.
I'm sure the patience is a two-way street.
Now,
how would you rate your overall satisfaction with Tracker products?
On a scale of what?
1 to 10.
Oh, I would say probably we're not where we need to get as far as us rolling out to our officers. And so Tracker remains committed to working with us, making improvements. But since we're not completely rolled out, I just don't know how that's going to, it's going to be brand new for our officers that they've never done before. But in speaking with a lot of other agencies, a lot of their officers already impound evidence. And so doing the data entry is not anything new. So.
Okay. No, that's a good answer. Now, do you recommend Tracker products to other law enforcement agencies? And if so, why?
I would. I think being beneficial. It just allows into the system anytime and just kind of look, even from home. I mean, home, I have to feel maybe somebody wants a rush on of evidence, and then I can go into Tracker no matter where I am from my work computer and determine exactly where is that item of evidence or where is it not, because we can't start doing forensic testing unless I know exactly where it's at and then where it needs to go. So I think That's been very and just working with them. Like I said, we had meetings before the launch, to ensure the customization phase was in there, and continue to work with us to make improvements. And so we're very grateful for that.
That's great. That's good to hear. Now, what would you say to another agency that's considering tracker products but has concerns about making the change?
Well, I mean, I would just say it's not easy change. I think depending upon the situation with the agency and where they are, with their own evidence management software. But with any software upgrade, I think it's necessary with the times.
Yeah.
And certainly if you have a ton of evidence and you're looking to actually disposition it and evaluate it, if you have to keep it long term, I think having certain features, especially related to the statute of limitations, is very helpful.
Okay, that's great. Now, have there been any benefits from using tracker products?
Well, I mean, I think it was our neighboring law enforcement agencies were going to upgrade to Tracker,
Mhm.
and so that's been a huge benefit. And just having those conversations, with them, and then other enforcement agencies in the United States. I know one time Ben Townsend showed me this amazing map of the United States and all the entities that had Tracker, and like what their input looked like and how much bandwidth they were using. And I mean, it was just absolutely incredible the amount of they're keeping track of associated, like nationwide, you know what I'm saying? Like, just really, really something that I know. So yeah.
Very nice. Now, if you could request one additional or improvement to tracker products, what would it be?
I don't know that I can answer that.
Even if it's from a management perspective.
You know what? So I would say packaging related to a package. So I think right now, I know Tracker has a solution, but I don't know that it works for us. But
Mhm.
I would say when we have a package with like 10 items in it, I don't know that there's a way Tracker can state that there's a package with 10 items and allow us to print one barcode with all those items versus having to print 10 barcodes, one for each of the items in there. Um, I know they have a solution, but I don't know that it works with our workflow, if that makes sense.
Now, have you brought up this concern to the team that you're working regularly with?
I have, and I'm not system entering. I was like, maybe somebody else should answer that.
Yeah.
And they do have a solution, but are against what they want us to do. I think we're still printing out multiple barcodes for a package that has multiple items. And so I know Ben explained that there's just a different way to do it, but I don't know that it works for us. So
Okay.
that might be the one thing that I think would want to change.
Okay. No, that's good. That's valid. And how do you products helping your agency in the long term?
Well, I think everybody going to data entry, right? Right now we have 10 different area commands spread out all over Las Vegas. And so sometimes, people will drop evidence and then all of a sudden become a rush and they don't remember where they dropped it. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll see you in 3 days when it surfaces, right? Like when we go to all these locations and we actually get everything data entered into our system. I think once our officers start doing their own data entry, we'll be able to track that item of evidence from the moment that a label is printed for it. And so that'll be really helpful because we'll know exactly where we need to go to pick it up and to get it wherever it needs to go. I mean, we get in thousands of items of evidence every month. A lot of times they need to get taken out of those bins and someplace else, but we just don't know a lot of times where the evidence is. And so I think just knowing from the moment that it's dropped and getting that chain of custody locked into the software from the moment the officer does something and it's electronically recorded, I think that'll be helpful. Plus, we can see a description of the items as well. Sometimes, the outside label would just say, t-shirt,
Right.
but we have more capability, bloody t-shirt with defects, in the armpit, not size large. So exactly what the item is, and we can see that in our system firsthand.
Yeah, that sounds like a helpful feature, not only from a evidence perspective, but also from a disposition from a perspective.
And also from a prosecution perspective, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, if there's multiple suspects or multiple items they can tell exactly what item they want tested, what item of clothing somebody may have been wearing based upon video, and then it matches the description of evidence that we have on hand. And so it's very helpful.
Excellent. That's fantastic. And the last question is there anything else you'd like to share about your products?
You know, I'm just appreciative of Ben and his team. I feel they are incredible. They work very hard. They've been very flexible with us in being willing to accommodate a lot of our requests to
Okay.
make the software work for our work processes and continue to do that. And so we're very grateful. You know, anytime I contact Ben, he's very responsive. His team is responsive. I know we're such a large agency and we have so much evidence, and so it's not always easy. But I'm just personally very appreciative of all of his, and I think it's a good partnership, and we're going to be using the software for years to come. And so I know we're going to get there in transition with our in due time.
That's excellent. Well, my next conversation is going to be with your colleague, Chasen. And Ben was saying that he uses this software so much, there's probably aspects about it that he knows better
He
than Ben
does.
does. Yeah.
He does. And so I'm not a technical person. It's not I can be technical for forensic stuff, but he's the one that I have developing all my widgets and stuff like that. So it's
Mhm.
him. He's phenomenal. He's absolutely phenomenal. And he routinely emails Ben's team, one in particular, Sumaya, who I can't say enough. I mean, these guys must send 30 emails back and forth. It's very impressive. So
That's fantastic. Well, Kim, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share your experience with me.
thank you,
Okay.
Paul.
Thanks, Kim.
At it. You have a great afternoon. Take
You too.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.